I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business with Empire State Development for Thursday, March 19th, 2015. The directors have received the written materials in advance of this meeting, and they are free to ask questions at any time. As noted on the agenda posted on the internet, we welcome public comment on the items on the following agenda. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes each, and those representing groups may speak for up to 4 minutes, one speaker per group. Speakers' comments may address only items considered at today's meeting. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda, and if so, I'd ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record. At this time, we will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item or items. Does anyone have any conflicts? Hearing none. Thank you. I'll now ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the February 19th.
Second. That's one of the things we do here.
If we don't, we'll be here till 3 o'clock.
Okay, so Howard, speed it up.
Nothing will be worse than last meeting.
Okay. Any questions, comments, additions, or deletions with regard to the minutes? Okay, we've approved. All in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask Kathleen to present an item relating to ESD's annual operating budget. Kathleen, please go ahead.
Thank you and good morning. In compliance with state finance law, a request is being made for the directors to adopt the ESD fiscal year 2015-16 annual operating budget, which includes funding for the operations of the Regional Economic Development Councils, the statewide broadband initiative, the Upstate Revitalization Fund, Global New York, the New York State Innovation Venture Capital Fund, and support provided to certain subsidiaries. Personal services expenses are inclusive of enhanced staffing to support these new and continuing initiatives, as well as other economic development efforts. Also included is the provision for fringe benefits, which is expected to remain consistent with the fiscal year 2014-15 expense. Non-personal services expenses reflect certain cost increases related to administering the new programs previously mentioned, as well as those already in operation, some of which are recovered from outside funding sources, as indicated in this funding sources section of the operating budget. Also included is a provision for payment of a cost recovery assessment in accordance with a section of Public Authorities Law that directs the division of the budget to assess an amount to each public authority for the recovery of central government services. If following the adoption of the state's fiscal year 2015-16 budget, changes are required to the operating budget proposed today, a modified version will be presented to the directors at a later date. In addition to the operating budget, authorization is being sought to approve the fiscal year 2015-16 non-programmatic capital expense authorization in the amount of $1,714,500. These funds will support plans to invest in new communications technologies, implement Wi-Fi at ESD's NYC location, purchase network and other computer equipment, and upgrade video conferencing equipment, cybersecurity systems, the virtual infrastructure, and the financial management system. In order to be fully compliant, with state finance law, all of the corporation's active subsidiaries will also be presenting both operating budgets and annual capital expense authorizations to their respective boards by March 31st. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions for Kathleen from the directors? Any questions or comments on this item for Kathleen? Any comments from the public on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now I'll take the agenda out of order and ask David Solway, the director of ESD's broadband program, to present item 3, the Connect Broadband Program consent calendar. David is traveling on business this morning and asked that he be allowed to present his item at the beginning of the agenda. David, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, directors. I'm seeking director's approval to fund 3 broadband projects totaling $8.135 million. Total of 3
Which
projects.
number is this?
3H.
3H.
Oh, okay.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Two projects are funded through New York Work Connect New York, and $5.687 million project is funded through the Regional Council funding, CFA Round 3. One is a project at Slick Network Solutions for $5.6 million, which is an REDC Round 3 project. $812,000 to Older Adult Technology Service, which is a Connect New York project, and $1.6 million to New York City's Department of Small Business Services, which is a Connect New York project. Projects were authorized in 2012-13, 13-14 New York State budget. In March 2013, 18 broadband projects were selected to receive Connect New York broadband grants based on the support of the Regional Economic Development Councils and technical scores awarded by a committee. 21 have been ranked projects competing for the $25 million in funding. In addition, 4 broadband project sponsors received more than $10 million from Round 3 of the Regional Economic Development Council grants to expand broadband across New York State. As part of the 2013 Regional Economic Development Council Award Program, Governor Cuomo announced grants for 3 broadband projects and dedicated a $6 million broadband fund to the North Country, totaling $11.4 million. Building on this success made through the Connect New York program, the funding will be used to expand broadband access to New York's rural communities. Together, these 3 projects, Connect New York, New York Works, and REDC Round 3, will deliver broadband services to 2,489 households, 1,101 businesses, and 33 community anchor institutions, which will span across 2 New York State regions, the city and the North Country. Among these grant recipients is Slick Network Solutions, wholly owned subsidiary of Nickel Telephone, a privately held company. Slick specializes in delivering network and internet solutions to organizations in the Northern New York community. Slick provides comprehensive communication services, including commercial cabling and enterprise phone systems installation and maintenance. The other grant recipient is Older Adult Technology Services, OAT, social not-for-profit organization that builds sustainable new systems to change the way we age. OAT partners with government agencies, community-based organizations, national advocacy groups, and major corporate engineer solutions that put technology in the hands of older adults to achieve meaningful outcomes. The other grant recipient is the New York City Department of Small Business Services, public authority, public benefit corporation, which uses expertise to develop, advise, manage, and invest to strengthen businesses and help local New York City neighborhoods. By leveraging partnerships between the public and private sectors, the company stimulates the local economy with real estate development, which works to create jobs, build and revive communities, and improve quality of life for its residents. Each project is tracked more detail on the multi-disbursement consent calendar form. Happy to take any questions, though.
Any questions or comments for David on this item from the directors?
Vital.
Vital, okay.
Would it be possible at some point to get a map of which areas are being covered by these services?
Absolutely. We have,
So that we have some idea of what portions of the state are being serviced?
we sure can, and we'll also can do it all the projects to date as well as any future ones that come up. Be happy to provide that quickly for you, sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any comments from the public?
One other question. How is the progress to date on this program?
It's going great. We actually are, stepping up to the new program, which is a $500 million program. There's been a lot of impact in there, and we can provide some specific impacts on the projects that have already expanded, with the maps that we provide. In total, it's about 150,000 households that will have access after all the projects complete, which are all unserved households, so it's quite an impact in those areas.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Any comments from the public? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. I'll now ask Glendon McCleary to provide a summary of all of the project items on the agenda. Once Glendon has completed this summary, I'll call on the directors of the regional offices or their representatives to present items from their regions. Glendon, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and good morning. Directors will be requested to consider funding for 16 projects, including one Jobs Not grant for $850,000, one Minority and Women-Owned Business Development and Lending Program grant for $2 million, one Empire State Economic Development Fund grant for $700,000, one Economic Development Services Fund loan for $1 million $371,486. The 16 projects also include 12 regional council awards to be funded as follows. One Economic Development Purposes Fund for $250,000. One Economic Transformation Program grant for $750,000. Two New York Works Connect New York grants totaling $2,448,346. One Urban and Community Development Program grant for $500,000. Six Regional Council Capital Fund grants totaling $12,937,140. And one Market New York grant for $18,100. The 16 projects take place in the Central New York, Capital, New York City, Southern Tier, Finger Lakes, Western New York, and the North Country regions. Will leverage over $142 million in additional investment, retain 197 jobs, and create 380 jobs in the state. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. I'll continue with the agenda and ask Charles Radier, representing ESD's Mid-Hudson Regional Office, to present the Coach USA item for the director's consideration. Charles, when you're ready.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, directors. The directors have been asked to consider for their approval assistance of an $850,000 ESD grant to Coach USA. Coach USA is one of the largest private sector providers of commuter and transit motor coach services in the U.S. and Canada. They operate a fleet of approximately 7,000 motor road coaches throughout New York State, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the tri-state area. In 2006, Coach was looking to relocate to a new facility to support customer development and increase sales. They identified a facility in Chester, New York, in Orange County that was ideal for its needs. ESD offered the company a capital grant to support its growth in New York, and as a result, the company purchased 52 acres and constructed and equipped a $192,000 square foot facility. The facility consists of offices, maintenance garage, and an indoor parking. The $850,000 grant is to defray costs related to the real estate acquisition, construction, machinery and equipment acquisition, furniture and fixtures, of a total project cost of approximately $22.9 million. As a result of ESD's assistance, Coach was required to create 320 new jobs in New York. They are currently occupying the building and have a current workforce base of 341 jobs at the site. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions or comments for Charles regarding this Coach USA item? Any comments from the public regarding this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mike Hall, representing ESD's Western New York Regional Office, is up next, and he'll present the Unifrax headquarters item for your consideration. Mike, you're up.
Good morning, directors. We're requesting to approve a $700,000 capital grant from the Empire State Economic Development Fund to Unifrax, which was established in 1996 and manufactures heat-resistant ceramic fiber products. The company outgrew its Niagara Falls corporate headquarters and their R&D department and was considering relocating to either Indiana or Tonawanda, New York, in close proximity to an existing manufacturing facility in Tonawanda. The $4.7 million project involved the acquisition of new office, laboratory, and R&D, furniture, fixtures, machinery, and equipment, leasehold improvements, soft costs, and relocation expenses necessary to move the headquarters to Tonawanda. And they were also the first tenant in what was a newly established industrial park in Tonawanda. The project was to retain 93 full-time permanent positions and 3 full-time contract positions and create 10 new full-time permanent positions and 5 new full-time contract positions by January 1st of 2015. The company exceeded its job commitment and currently employing 113 full-time permanent employees. ESD has a previous history with Unifrax and has assisted them with a capital grant of $1.5 million for the purchase and acquisition of machinery and equipment in their manufacturing facility. And we also have a previous Excelsior award of $800,000 with the company. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the directors to Mike Ball regarding Unifrax? Any comments from the public on this item? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, who was that?
I think it was the delay in the
Yeah,
sound.
Oh, thank you.
That was the
Oh,
delay.
it's Anthony. Sorry if there's a delay.
Oh, Anthony, no
Yeah,
problem.
he does that all the time.
That was a fake out. All right, now I'll ask Richard Ball, representing ESD's Finger Lakes Regional Office, to present the Western New York stamp item for the director's consideration. Richard, please begin.
Thank you. Good morning, directors. The directors are requested to approve a loan of $1,371,486 from the Economic Development Purposes Fund to the Genesee County Economic Development Corporation, or GCEDC, to acquire additional land for the mega site called STAMP, which the directors have seen before. This assistance will allow the immediate purchase of 2 land parcels that are farms and 1 home as the 3rd land parcel, for which options are due to expire. With the purchase of an additional 189 acres, Genesee County agencies will own a total of 1,061 acres of the STAMP site's approximate 1,250 acre footprint. STAMP, which stands for the Science and Technology Advanced Manufacturing Park, is a 1,248 acre planned development district being planned and marketed for high technology manufacturing, mainly semiconductor manufacturing, in the town of Alabama, Genesee County. Similar to the Marcy Nanotech site in the Mohawk Valley and the Luther Forest site that brought Global Foundries, the site located between Buffalo and Rochester is being developed on a speculative basis, and its local development agency sponsors seek to leverage New York State's substantial competitive advantage in this space, mainly cutting-edge R&D, source workforce, ample infrastructure, to create high-paying jobs throughout the attraction of another major project to New York State. Investments in these sites are necessary to make them shovel-ready for what industry experts predict will be 55 new 300 mm chip plants to be constructed globally over the next 8 years, plus an additional 450 mm plants over the next 15 years. New York State competes both nationally and globally for these projects. Mega sites are available throughout the U.S. in states like Arizona, New Mexico, Oregon, and Texas, and outside the U.S. in Singapore, Malaysia, Germany, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. The site can take as long as 10 to 15 years to develop, yet the clients for these projects want to be at the volume production in as little as about 33 months from the first shovel in the ground. The semiconductor market in the United States is our #2 export industry with very high wages and highly transferable skills. These plants will bring with them enormous multipliers stemming from the high value chain and supplier ecosystem needed to support it. This request is in addition to the prior approvals the director provided, bringing ESD assistance to a total of $6.3 million in discretionary state assistance. ESD has provided critical funding that has kept this project moving forward without letting options on the critical parcels expire, while structuring the loans to be repaid from future sales of the parcels and placing real estate liens on the property acquired with both loans and grants in the event the project doesn't advance as planned, the grant lien being an atypical instrument that we have added. The background on the loan mirrors past loans. The repayment terms of ESD's loan takes into account the difficulty of predicting the future. So we have set up key criteria for future decision making, including how ESD will be repaid if the project does not advance as represented. If the project is successful, we'll be paid back in 5 years without interest, after 10 years at a 3% interest rate for the last 5 years. On the other hand, if the project comes to less than fruition, we have real estate liens and corporate guarantees for the loans and grants from the GCEDC and its real estate affiliate, the Genesee Gateway Local Development Corporation. Staff has set forth some reasonable determinations that could result in forbearance if full repayment does not appear likely. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments for Richard? Yes, Joyce?
Yeah, if for some reason the project doesn't develop as planned,
Thank you, sir.
can a provision be inserted that the board be notified to that effect?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Richard? Any comments from the public on this item? We'll entertain a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank
Vincent
you.
Esposito, the Director of ESD's Finger Lakes Regional Office, will present the next two items on today's agenda. Please vote after each item is presented. Vinnie, please begin the College Town item.
Good morning, Howard and Directors. We're asking you this morning to approve a $4 million capital grant to CT Rochester, LLC, to be used for a portion of the cost of a new construction, utilities, and soft costs for the non-residential and non-hotel portions of a 14-acre development site known as College Town, adjacent to the University of Rochester. CT Rochester was formed in 2011 as a joint venture between Fairmount Properties and Gilbane Development Company to undertake this project, which had been sought for more than a decade as part of the University of Rochester's master plan. With the selection in June of 2012 of the joint venture to undertake the project and support from the City of Rochester and other local entities, the plan could become reality. However, the amount of traditional financing available was limited by conservative underwriting standards, even with a sizable HUD 108 loan. There remained a financing gap. As a result, the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council recommended and in 2012 was awarded a $4 million capital grant through round 2 of the CFA process, which allowed this project to proceed. CT Rochester has completed the first phase of this mixed-use development in southwest Rochester near the university's main campus, which includes a 75,000 square feet of Class A office space, 100,000 square feet of street-level retail and restaurants, including a bookstore and a grocery store. It also has involved remediation of land adjacent to the facility. The total project cost for this phase is $92.4 million, of which ESD's grant is 4%. Happy to take any questions about the College Town project.
Directors, any questions for Vinnie or comments on College Town? It's Joyce.
Yeah, it appears that this is going to be used to create various parking facilities for this project.
Yes, there's a significant increase in parking available on this site, which is usable by people who are visiting it, working there, as well as students and other visitors of the region.
So any job creation is indirect rather than direct. I assume that the jobs involved with the demolition and construction on the site itself are temporary jobs.
That's correct. There were the indirect construction jobs and then indirect job creation through the tenants of the facility.
And the facility will be privately owned?
That's correct.
So, what more can I say? It's pretty clear. Can I just ask, why is this being done as a grant rather than a loan?
That's a good question. Loans not typically available through the regional council process by which this came forward. This was a priority project in each of the first 2 years of the Finger Lakes Regional Council, emanating from that University of Rochester master plan that I mentioned. And so received a grant award, and it was never considered directly by ESD before that.
Well, I would just like to suggest, though, that when we're dealing with a profitable enterprise, that we should have some process, or there should be some process for considering the possibility of a loan rather than the grant in order to ensure the best use of state funds and the maximum benefit to the state. A loan being repayable so that the money could be used again in some fashion, whether by us or going into the general fund, whereas a grant is money that's, although being used for a beneficial purpose, in effect is lost direct as a source of funding for some other project.
I think Joyce is onto something. I was unaware that if it comes from a regional council, it can't be a loan. Where did that come from? That's news to me.
The regional council CFA process are grant awards. They're just not typically loan projects. I'm sure that we probably could convert some of them if requested or needed, but that's not been my experience to this point in the first 4 rounds.
Why don't you spend a few minutes and talk about why this has been a priority project in the Rochester Council?
Certainly. The University of Rochester, which you're probably well aware of, is the region's largest employer. They enacted 10 years ago a new master plan that established significant growth to which the state has been a part of. Several of their job-creating facilities, their R&D facilities, as well as the transportation infrastructure around it. One of the greatest needs in that master plan and among the regional council was the lack of mixed-use amenities for students, visitors, and suppliers, sort of people who work with the university, including the lack of a grocery store. It was identified by the federal HUD as a food desert. There was not a major bookstore servicing the university off campus, as well as the need for the office space, residential, and even though it's not part of what we're funding, also a significant hotel presence. So this was just a glaring sort of hole in the southwestern portion of the city, which was growing along with the University of Rochester. So the council had prioritized it as a priority project for the first 2 years and funded it in this manner in the second year.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're all very supportive of the development of the University of Rochester, and we're all very aware of the economic development problems faced by Rochester in recent years. I think my question, and I believe Mr. Dice's point, goes more towards the procedure of how this is being done and why the regional council is not authorized to consider loans as well as grants. And I know that's not at your level, but...
Yeah. So actually, the regional council could recommend ESD look at it because they're an advisory body.
Right.
So they're not actually,
That's what I mean.
empowered to do any to authorize any of that. So the directors are, but the council can consider those requests as they come in and suggest to ESD that they look at them as a loan instead of a grant or instead of an Excelsior tax credit. So I think going forward that's a good point because it is really an advisory body and they're just trying to...
Yeah, that's why I was saying it. It's automatically a grant.
Right.
I never thought that was part of the rules.
And it never is automatically a grant, so it depends on the circumstance and depends on the project and depends on on a lot of local input. But
always true.
I think they can, going forward, definitely look at this project as potential loans. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. It was a good point. Any other questions or comments from the directors? Any comments from the public? Okay, motion to approve?
So,
I move it.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Vinny, do you have a second item?
Yes, I do. I have an additional regional council award, which the directors are being requested to approve a $500,000 capital grant to Sibley Redevelopment LP for renovations to the historic Sibley building in downtown Rochester. A former department store, this 12-story building is over 1 million square feet, is on the National Register, and closed in 1992. The condition of the building required a large amount of capital investment to revitalize it to its former glory. When Sibley Redevelopment LP, an affiliate of the Providence-based Wind Development, purchased the building in 2012, it was approximately 80% vacant and in a state of disrepair. Without public assistance, the capital costs to renovate and operate the building were too great to attract high-quality business tenants and residents, with the goal of transforming the Sibley building into a key downtown mixed-use site. As a result of the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council initiative in 2013, the company was awarded a $500,000 capital grant through the consolidated funding application for a phase of the overall redevelopment. ESD is participating in this first phase of redevelopment, which is a non-residential, including renovation of the office atrium, lobby, public art gallery, and installation of equipment. Eventually, there will be additional phases that will include retail and housing, affordable housing tied to different income levels, and market rate housing. It's noted that Wind Development is one of the largest managers of affordable housing in the country, and this project completed a couple months ago and opened and has also announced some of its first office tenants as a result. Be happy to take additional questions.
Any questions for Vinny on the Sibley project in downtown Rochester from the directors? Any comments from the public on this item? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Kevin Hurley, representing ESD's Finger Lakes Regional Office, will now present the Roberts Wesleyan College item for the director's consideration. Please begin, Kevin.
Good morning. The directors are requested to approve a $250,000 capital grant to Roberts Wesleyan College for construction of a next-generation science and nursing building on its North Chili campus in Monroe County. The new facility will provide increased access to cutting-edge healthcare training to meet the expanding needs of Western New York's innovative science and healthcare communities, which are among the region's fastest-growing industries. A state-of-the-art nursing simulation center under the registered trademark name SimMan will make it one of the few such resources in upstate New York. The new facility is vital to continuing collaborative workforce training partnerships with medical providers and community health partners. Though the college pursued considerable private fundraising, it needed ESD assistance to close a financing gap. As a result of the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council initiative, in 2013, the college was awarded a $250,000 capital grant through round 3 of the consolidated funding application process, which allowed the project to proceed on the timetable needed to meet the college's enrollment and programmatic goals. The project was identified as a regional priority project by the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Council. Total project cost, $10.4 million, of which ESD's grant is just about 2%. ESD is funding a portion of construction, furniture, fixtures, equipment, and soft costs for the project. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the directors for Kevin? Yes, Julie.
I'm pleased to see that we're supporting the development of a nursing and science facility in North Chili, which I actually happen to be a little bit familiar with. And I understand that our grant is only 2% of the financing costs for this project, so it's a rather minor, though necessary, piece of the financing puzzle. However, just for my own information, I assume that the jobs that will be created in connection with this are related to employment at the facility, etc., and the attraction of students, etc., with the usual multiplier effect on the economy. But I'm just curious, do we have any idea how many of these students actually stay in the area or remain in upstate New York after they graduate?
I don't have an exact number for you. I think this project actually addresses that issue because many of the industries in our town, healthcare industries, are crying for employees, and this is a project that will begin to churn out more employees for them. So I don't know exactly how many stay, but this is designed to help keep as many of them here as possible.
Okay, so this is really designed to meet the needs of the local market in terms of the kinds of employees that they need.
That's a very, very large part of this project, yes.
Okay, fine, that's good to hear.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Kevin? Any comments from the public on this project? Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Bonnie Palmer, the Director of ESD Southern Tier Regional Office, will now present the Community Revitalization Program item for your consideration.
Thank you and good morning.
Bonnie?
The directors are asked to approve a grant of $2.41 million to the Southern Tier Regional Economic Development Corporation, known as STREETAC, to be used to recapitalize a regional low-interest loan and grant fund referred to as the Community Revitalization Program. This program is used to revitalize downtown, rural, and neighborhood centers by offering gap financing for a variety of uses, including rehabilitation of existing structures, new construction involving mixed use, residential, commercial, and retail opportunities. Eligible applicants for the program include cities, towns, and villages located within ESD's Southern Tier region. The program offers local communities an opportunity to implement their own strategic priorities and to structure projects as required to support unique local needs in targeted areas. By design, the Street Act Board, which administers this program, consists of 13 members representing all 8 Southern Tier counties. This is a continuation of an existing loan program that was awarded $2.5 million as a Southern Tier Regional Economic Development Council priority project in the CFA 2 funding round. The requested funding includes $1.25 million awarded for the program in CFA 3 and $1.16 million of funds reallocated from defunct projects that were awarded in CFA 2. I can take any questions.
Any
question,
sir? Yes, sir.
So the fund's been in existence since 2012. How has it performed in terms of the credit quality of the loans?
It actually has performed very well. My understanding is that there has only been 1, maybe 2 projects that have had any difficulty. In 2013, Street Act dispersed funds for 8 regional loans totaling $2.15 million to assist businesses in their efforts to renovate, rehabilitate, and repurpose vacant commercial buildings across the region.
Well, are the loans getting repaid is the question.
Yes, they've just
You know, in
started to.
terms.
The loan repayments have just started to come in. It's a slow process because, as you know, there's a time lag between when the loans are approved and when the projects are actually completed. Once the projects are completed, they go through ESD's disbursement process, which takes another several months. So we are just at the point where these loans are starting to be repaid to Street Act. The ultimate goal of this program is to create a self-sufficient revolving loan fund that will continue to be administered by this organization into the future.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Bonnie?
It has its own J-curve.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. We'll now ask Arnold Will, representing ESD's Capital Region, to present the next 2 items on today's agenda. Please vote after each item is presented. Arnie, please begin with Tech Valley Center of Gravity.
Yes, good morning. Tech Valley Center of Gravity. The directors are requested to approve a $550,000 capital grant to Tech Valley Center of Gravity, Inc. for the renovation of fit-up of a 50,000 square foot historic building to support startup companies and commercial activity in downtown Troy. The project is a priority for the Capital Region Economic Development Council. Tech Valley was formed in 2012 to encourage entrepreneurialism, create startup companies, and produce new jobs to keep young professionals in the Capital Region. The center is an incubator that promotes manufacturing innovation through a makerspace. Community-driven shared space and ideas and inventions can grow in a nurturing environment. It offers project collaboration, shared tools and equipment, workspace, classes, and startup collaboration for innovators, creators, professionals, and entrepreneurs. The center began operating in 2013 in garage space donated by David Bryce, a local architect and owner of Quackenbush Properties, LLC. The center experienced immediate and rapid growth in membership and facility usage and quickly outgrew the space. The identification of a new affordable location in downtown Troy was crucial to the center to continue accommodating its growing membership. One option was the historic Quackenbush building owned by Quackenbush Properties, LLC. This 4-story structure was constructed in 1857 and has been vacant since 2001. Despite numerous redevelopment efforts since then, the cost to renovate the building was prohibitive. Tech Valley applied to round 3 of the CFA for financial assistance to close a projected funding gap in the cost to renovate the Quackenbush building to create maker space and commercial space for new and expanding businesses. The project involved renovation of the building to create 20,000 square feet of space for Tech Valley and 30,000 square feet of space that would be leased to a variety of small entrepreneurs, all of which would have the opportunity to contribute to and utilize Tech Valley's makerspace. Additionally, 23,148 square feet of space have been designated by Hudson Valley Community College approved Startup New York application. Tech Valley also entered into an agreement with Quackenbush Properties LLC, under which Tech Valley would receive 33% ownership of the Quackenbush building, and 20,000 square feet of makerspace will be leased to Tech Valley for a minimum of 10 years at a significantly reduced cost. The $2.7 million project is expected to be completed in April, and occupancy of the incubator is at almost 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnie. Any questions or comments from the directors to Arnie? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Arnie, please continue and present the Albany County IDA item for the director's consideration.
Thank you. The directors are requested to approve a $250,000 capital grant toward a $1.8 million investment that would result in the relocation of the former Hoffman's Playland Amusement Park to property adjacent to Huck Finn's Warehouse and More in the north area of downtown Albany. Hoffman's Playland was a family-owned children's amusement park that operated for over 60 years in Loudonville, Albany County. In recent years, the value of the property on which the park operated grew significantly due to the surrounding properties. In 2013, the park owners announced their intention to retire and sell the assets of the park so it could continue operating elsewhere. With no offers to purchase and no interest by other family members, the owners decided to auction the park assets. As a summer must for generations of Capital Region residents, the potential closure and dismantling of this beloved family favorite mobilized representatives of both the public and private sector to develop a solution that would retain the park in the region. Just prior to a scheduled public auction, the owners of Huck Finn's expressed interest in purchasing the assets and moving the park to a parcel owned by and adjacent to its operation in downtown Albany. Huck Finn's is another family-owned, stable business that has been operating in the Capital Region for over 50 years and is the largest retail outlet in the Albany area. At a project total cost of $1.8 million, the owners of Huck Finn were able to commit a substantial portion of the cost, just over $1 million. However, additional funds were needed to fill a financing gap. ESD offered a $250,000 capital grant with funding through round one of the consolidated funding application, which was accepted in September of 2014. The project is also supported by a $250,000 National Grid Economic Development Grant and a $150,000 grant from Albany County Capital Resource Corporation. The assets of the former playground have been purchased, the property has been cleared, and the necessary upgrades, including electrical, paving, fencing, landscaping, etc., and the installation of the rides will commence as soon as weather permits. It is anticipated the project will be completed by early May. The project will establish a tourism destination along a visible stretch of I-787 in an economically distressed area of the city and bring 150 seasonal part-time jobs to Albany's North End, contributing to the revitalization of the downtown Albany and providing the city's youth an opportunity to learn job skills that will help them to be successful throughout their lives.
Did you try the merry-go-round?
Is that it, Arnie?
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments for Arnie from the directors? Yes, Joyce.
This sounds like it must be a first for us.
It is, yeah. Do they serve cotton candy there?
I think they do. Popcorn, hot dogs, the whole works.
So, Huck Finn's Playland LLC is not the same as the previous owner of the project. That's correct.
That's correct. Hoffman was is the owner of the previous one, and they have no relationship to Huck Finn.
Okay, well, who is Huck Finn, and do they have any experience in operating this kind of facility?
Huck Finn is again it's a retail furniture outlet store that has a large operation and has been in the capital region for a long time. They basically just came as a resource to say when it was about to be auctioned. So he almost as a community, I'm sure he's going to benefit from people visiting his location, but he would just stepped in at the end just before it went to go auction. His experience in running retail is obvious, but his experience in running a playground, I don't know if he has any.
It's kind of specialized.
I guess we're being asked to find out, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, I think that he has been successful in business, and his father started this operation, so they've been in business for, well over 50 years.
Arnie, just talk again for another minute on why this is, where this is in Albany, and why the regional council thought it was significant.
Yeah. I think that there was strong, as I said, both public and private support, political support for trying to save this operation. It was one of those ones where grandparents went there, parents went there, kids went there, and it was in a more rural, I'd say a more affluent area that was at one point very rural but became affluent as things moved along. It has since moved now down to the inner city on the north end, which is looking for redevelopment, and I think that the purpose here is to try and bring the clientele that previously came there, which we expect will continue, down into Albany. This was one of those ones where, we've had professional singers, ones you would recognize that may be going to SPAC, and when they get to SPAC or Saratoga Performing Arts Center, they would bring their kids down to this because it's really a kid-central area. When I say kids, it's not just young. It's 14 to 16 will be a gathering. Miniature golf would be present. So it's looked at as a tourism destination that will help to revitalize, especially this section of the city.
Okay.
Well, it takes all kinds of amenities to make a city.
Any other questions or comments from directors on this project? Any questions from the public? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I'll ask James Fail, the director of the ESD Central New York Regional Office, to present the Courier Plastics item for your consideration. Jim?
Morning. The directors are being asked to approve a $750,000 grant for Courier Plastics, Inc. This is a $20.8 million project, which involves the purchase of some land, construction of a new facility, as well as renovation of an existing facility, as well as upgrading their equipment. This will allow the company to be more efficient as it continues to grow. It is a manufacturer of custom plastic products. This project will retain 100 jobs and lead to the creation of 40 jobs. This is Courier Plastics is a family-owned business, and they're located in Auburn, New York, which is in a rural part of the central New York region. So these jobs are very significant, and this is a regional council project. And the buildings are up and running, and the equipment is installed, and the project is moving forward. I'd be glad to entertain any questions.
Questions or comments from directors? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. As you know, David Solway already presented item 3H, the broadband consent calendar, so I'll move on and ask Gavin Landry, ESD's Executive Director of Tourism, to present the Market New York Grant Program consent calendar for the director's consideration.
Thank you, Howard. Good morning, directors. Good morning, everyone else. I'm here to ask your approval for a very small grant for the Siegel Music Colony, celebrating their 100th anniversary. While this is a small award, I think it bears mentioning that tourism has been part of the CFA since round 2, initially at $3 million round 2, and $10 million in round 3, and $12 million in round 4. It's also worth noting that in round 3, over $83 million worth of projects were funded through the CFA in support of tourism, and in round 4, over $100 million was awarded to tourism-related projects, which is in alignment with the governor's vision to support one of the state's leading employers and to foment transformational tourism development. With that, I'll ask for any questions on this very small award.
Any questions from directors or comments? No? Any comments from the public with regard to this item? I'll entertain a motion to
Move.
approve. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Glendon McCleary will now present the March Regional Council Award Projects Consent Calendar for your consideration.
Thank you again. There's one consent item this month. The project involves a $40,000 grant to Springville Center for the Arts for building renovation and construction. In 2007, the organization purchased the historic church of Springfield and began a multi-phase renovation project to convert the vacant building to a multi-art center. In 2012, the organization applied for a CFA award to fill a financing gap for interior renovations to expand programming and exterior repairs to maintain the structure's integrity. The project will be completed in April of 2015, and the total project cost is approximately $620,000. The project will retain one job and create 3 additional jobs. Thank you.
Questions or comments for Glenn? Any public comment?
Sorry.
Motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ray Salaberios will now present an item relating to ESD's Minority and Women-Owned Business Investment Fund for the director's consideration. Ray.
Thank you, Howard. Good morning, directors. Good morning, everyone. Staff is seeking authorization to utilize up to $2 million from the Minority and Women-Owned Business Development and Lending Program to create a new Minority and Women-Owned Business Investment Fund. Staff is also requesting authorization to contract with an investment entity that has been selected via a rigorous RFP process. The Minority and Women-Owned Business Investment Fund is a newly created equity type of investment fund that will support innovation, job creation, and high-growth entrepreneurship throughout the state. The fund's objective is to invest in early-stage MWBEs, primarily in emerging technologies. These companies are typically involved in new and innovative products, services, technologies, or ideas that are in early-stage development and are characterized by high growth rates, market potential, and risk. ESD will enter into an agreement with a selected investment entity in order for it to make investments on behalf of ESD and funds investments to eligible state-certified MWBEs. The RFP was released in December of 2014, and submissions were due on January 14, 2015. Submissions were evaluated on criteria including, but not limited to, the applicant's track record of success in raising investment funds and successfully investing them, financial and management capacity to source deals, perform due diligence, evaluate the commercial potential of emerging technologies, and to provide management expertise and other value services to beneficiary state-certified MWBEs. After review and analysis of submitted responses, ESD staff chose Excel Technology Ventures as the potential investment partner. Based out of Rochester, New York, Excel was incorporated in December of 2012 and is owned by the University of Rochester. Excel has a history of investment in MWB startups. Since the company's inception, Excel has been identifying and investing in high-tech startup MWB firms. Currently, over a quarter of Excel's portfolio will qualify as an MWBE as per the definition established by New York State. Through its existence, Excel has been sourcing and investing in high-tech startup companies that were founded by minority and women entrepreneurs. Currently, 26% of Excel's investments have been made into minority-owned and women-owned businesses. Staff recommends Excel as fund manager because Excel's response to the RFP strongly demonstrated that the company has the capacity to meet program goals. Excel has a history of successfully working with ESD and is eager to undertake a role in managing the investment entity. Additionally, Excel has the resources and expertise to successfully invest in MW startups by focusing on deals that will have the potential to generate a return for the corporation, at the same time create jobs and tax revenues for the state of New York. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Directors, any questions for Ray? Yes, Joyce.
Yeah. The narrative consistently refers to this as an equity type fund.
Yes.
Is it in any way different from the usual kind of equity fund?
I think I know, because you have to be certified MWB to get funded.
Right.
So that was pretty the bit much difference between that and the regular equity funds.
Okay, and ESD is going to be a limited partner in this.
No, we're going to contract with Excel in order for Excel to take our funds and invest it in the designated entities. They in turn will keep a 2% management fee of investment, and everything else returns back to us. But I wouldn't call us a partner. They are a contracting firm of ours.
Okay, but we will benefit from the upside of any investments.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the bottom line, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is this a statewide program?
Absolutely. Although Excel is located in Rochester, they're beginning to have a history here in New York City and Long Island, and we believe that working with the 10 regional technology centers throughout the state, we can stimulate this program and make sure it's a worthwhile, a statewide endeavor.
So this is what one calls a double bottom line?
Yeah, you could call it that.
We support women, minorities, firms that are starting up, and we also may develop some economic return from it.
We hope. That's the plan.
Any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you very much. Glenn, I think you're back.
Yes, I am.
No rest for the weary. Glenn will present the March non-discretionary projects consent calendar for your consideration. Go ahead.
Thank you again. The first project includes 3 grants totaling $2,930,000 to Fuller Road Management Corporation for staffing and operating of SUNY Albany's Institute for Nanoelectronics Discovery and Exploration, or INDEX. INDEX will continue to do research and development for the next generation of nanoelectronics technology. The next 5 projects include grants totaling $72,500 for the promotion of fishing tournaments in the North Country and Central New York regions. A total of $150,000 was allocated by the Senate to fund 13 fishing tournament projects. The remaining project will be presented to the directors in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Great. Any questions from directors for Glenn on this item? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving to the administrative portion of the agenda, I'll ask Steve Golick to present a procurement item relating to the Upstate Revitalization Fund. Please begin, Steve.
Thank you. Today the board is being asked to authorize a contract with the Research Foundation for SUNY to provide consulting and support services for the Upstate Revitalization Fund. This fund is part of the governor's executive budget and proposes $1.5 billion to 7 upstate regions, create like a competition for them to compete for funding to support economic development initiatives in their region. The fund is expected to be mirrored after the Buffalo Billion initiative, which has really provided a boom to the upstate economy, obviously Buffalo and Western New York. As the Research Foundation, they had 2 contracts with ESD to do the planning and the implementation with the Buffalo Billion Plan. And considering their expertise now in this area, it's proposed that they provide the same type of services to the upstate regions that will be part of the Upstate Revitalization Fund competition. The Research Foundation basically is going to provide background assistance to each region, provide data, research, conduct stakeholder engagement, advise the regions on best practices. They won't be developing the region's plans, but they'll be providing the data and tools to assist each region to help them with the Upstate Revitalization Fund competition. So based on the foregoing, we're requested that the directors make a determination of responsibility with respect to the Research Foundation, authorize the corporation to enter in a contract not to exceed $500,000, and to take all related action. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Steve on this item? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you very much. Howard Kramer will now present a contract amendment item relating to New York is Open for Business program.
Good morning. The board is being requested to authorize a $25 million amendment to its existing contract with BBDO USA LLC. The directors will recall that in November 2011, the corporation was authorized to enter into a contract for $50 million with BBDO, pursuant to which BBDO is now serving ESD as its full-service marketing firm in connection with the Open for Business program. As previously communicated to the board, the Open for Business program is designed to market New York State as an ideal place for businesses to invest and create jobs, as well as to market the state as a prime tourism destination. The original $50 million BBDO contract has been amended 4 times, and its cap is now $211,500,000. Most of this contract limit has been spent or committed. The $25 million requested increase to this contract will allow the corporation to continue its marketing efforts of the Open for Business program. Funding for the $25 million amendment has been secured from NYPA and is currently in-house. The scope of work and BBDO's fee and compensation agreement will remain exactly the same. The amendment, once approved by the board, would subsequently require the approval of the Office of State Controller. In short, the directors are being asked to amend the existing contract with BBDO by $25 million, bringing the contract from $211,500,000 up to $236,500,000. Thank you.
Directors, any questions or comments for Howard?
Yeah, in this increment of 25 million, are the fees on a percentage basis that BBD&O is charging the same, or is it lower because of the increment?
The fees are based on hourly rates, and the hourly rates in this Fifth Amendment are the same hourly rates as the existing contract. They never
There's
change.
no scale, if we were to triple it and make it, 600 million, there'd be no scale economies. In other words, more delivery outside of the cost of doing it.
No, it's the set hourly rate, regardless of the volume. It's the number.
Why is that?
And the first 200 million's already been spent, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I understand that, but why should it be for the first 50, which has startup costs, the startup costs would be higher. The second 50 would be a little lower. And then it would go, I don't see why we don't get some benefit of scale on this.
Well, one of the things, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Rich, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Rich Newman. I'm the EVP of Marketing and State Strategy and work with Howard in
Okay,
distributing
good.
this contract. So the money that is spent for this and that has been authorized by the board and that we were asking for, the vast majority of that money is used to actually pay for media time. I would guess that the number is somewhere around 90% of those funds. Roughly, the remaining percentage pays for fees to outside companies like BBDO. So as a result, BBDO does not benefit when the money is extended because the contracts, they only benefit in the amount of work that they continue to do. So it's a continuation of their work.
Okay, but okay, let's take them out of it. Is there a scale issue when we're buying advertising that the more we buy, the lower the cost, so we get more per dollar?
Absolutely. When we buy more in a specific time frame, we get reduced rates because of our marketplace presence.
Okay, so.
But just to be clear, this dollar amount allows us to extend the effort. It does not necessarily heavy up the efforts that we're making in one specific period.
And what now?
It allows us to extend the effort as opposed to increase the amount we spend at any one period of time.
It extends the time frame.
Extends the time frame, correct.
Yeah, I got that, but so the startup and all of what we're doing, we're not reshooting ads and all that stuff. We're running the same commercials, promotional pieces, and all that.
But also, you constantly have new creative, right,
We
Reg?
have new advertising probably every 8 weeks.
Right.
Which we create. So that schedule doesn't really change. It allows us to simply continue to extend that schedule. And we continue to buy media, and we buy it generally on a month-by-month basis in order to take advantage of efficiencies in the market. but we generally buy the same amount of media each time frame. So our ability to extend the contract allows us to extend the time with which we're able to do this.
But they also do, because I've seen them, they continue to generate new creative, so they can't just go back and, they don't always go back and use that which has already been paid for, say, a year ago, because, you know, like a lot of advertising, it has to be refreshed. So
Correct.
you're oftentimes creating new, first there were those startup ads, now there's a lot of ads I see that are small business, kind of overarching small business promotion ads.
That is
things of that nature. So the creative is also changing. So we're creating new content in essence.
And I think it's also important to add that this is not simply to promote startup. This is also for all of our tourism efforts as well. And I don't know if you're familiar with the advertising that we did last year, which featured a host of celebrities. So we are creating new advertising with a different group of celebrities for this summer's effort. So the advertising, whether it's startup advertising, whether it's general business attraction and retention advertising, such as what Howard was referring to, or if it is the tourism advertising, is constantly being refreshed in order to make sure we attract.
All right, let me put it another way. Is cost per impression going down?
Cost per impression, it stays relatively the same because we have the same level of marketplace impact. If we spend $100 a week, if we are not asking to increase it to $200 a week to give us increased efficiencies. We're simply asking to extend the weeks that we do that.
Do you feel like we're being efficient in the way we're spending the advertising, buying the advertising dollars and
Yes.
doing the creative? We're getting a good value and consistently getting a good value.
Yes, we have every reason to believe that we are not only getting highly efficient media and that we are getting good cost per thousands and impressions because we monitor that on a quarterly basis and we compare ourselves to same period year ago. So we can see consistent improvements. We change the marketing mix in order to enhance the efficiency so that we have increased use of digital, which allows us to attract people more easily and drive people to our website.
Understand why I'm asking. If you add up everything else in this book, it
Yep.
doesn't amount to 25 million, right?
I
You understand?
completely understand why you're asking.
So if you don't mind, I want to spend a little more time on it. So we're buying another increment
25 million.
of advertising, primarily advertising and promotional materials, right? Okay. The question I'm asking is, and I think you're answering it, but I just want to reinforce the fact that this is big money.
Yes.
It's big money.
Yes.
And what we've got to make sure is that the incremental cost of the next campaign, namely this one or any other future ones, we've got to make sure that the incremental cost doesn't remain the same. It shouldn't remain the same. It should be less expensive. You're doing less creative because you're not changing the logos, you're not changing all this stuff and all this thing. It just seems to me that we should be getting some good economies moving forward.
Yes.
And if we're not, we ought to try to understand why we're not.
Okay.
So I'll appreciate hearing about it because I just think that we should be getting greater economies for this spending. It just strikes me, the amount of money, I know it's all spent, I get that. But the problem is, it's all been spent. But it doesn't mean that we're starting from ground zero on the next increment that you're asking us for. Right?
So where we're using existing creative and where we can increase our efficiencies from those, the creative that we've already invested in, then of course we would do that.
Absolutely, and we do that, and we do have efficiencies that get applied as a result of that. But I do think it's important that we go into the market, it's like buying a commodity. We are every week buying a commodity that is priced based on market conditions. And as a result, people do not look at us and say, oh, they spent a lot of money last week, so we'll give them a deal this week. Every week is Groundhog Day. And so you start from scratch in terms of the media costs that we are charged. We have people who are actively negotiating to give us the lowest cost. We are quite miserly when we approve things, frankly, and we look for efficiencies in many ways. But the media marketplace is a general marketplace that it is commodity-like. And because we do not commit the $200 million up front, which would give us enormous reduced costs and efficiencies, but we do not commit that way because we are not able to do that.
Okay, but do you believe we're going to stop this?
Do I believe we are going to stop the marketing of New
This
York?
is the last tranche and we're not going to do any more?
No.
Yeah, okay, that's my point. My point is we've got to try to understand how we can get a perspective look at it, or we play the game that all the big advertisers do. We say, look, if you don't give us a deal, we'll go to instead of Channel 2, we'll go to Channel 4. Instead of Channel 4, we'll go to Channel 8 or whatever.
Right. No, I think that is a very fair comment. We do look for ways to create it, but we also operate obviously within the budgetary system of the legislature, the legislative allocation of this money from NYPA. So looking at it on a yearly basis, which is how we plan it, but we do not necessarily acquire it that way. In order to give us the most flexibility so that we can take advantage of the marketplace as it's happening.
Okay, but I want us to understand that I think we've got, these are big numbers here, okay? And I think that it's it's the old, expression that Wanamaker had, 50% of my advertising is wasted, I'm just not sure which 50%. I don't agree with that. I think that advertising is getting much more sophisticated, and I think people can really target the stuff. And if we are putting numbers like this out, we've got to constantly be iterating through to understand whether it's making a difference. I think it probably is on the margin, but as we spend more, obviously the marginal improvement is not as great. Would you acknowledge that?
Here's what I will acknowledge, is that this, we believe, has been incredibly successful. And I will also acknowledge that I don't think that this is a simple job. Because frankly, the state, prior to 2010, was not very aggressive or thoughtful about presenting itself and being in the marketplace and advocating for itself, whether it was amongst competitive tourist destinations or other states. And I think what we have seen, particularly through the success of Startup New York, is that we have created close to 2,500 jobs. 83 companies have come to New York State or expanded in New York State as a result of this program. And that happened, we believe, because we're changing perceptions quite dramatically about New York State as the best place to do business, the best place to visit. No small task.
Okay, I agree with all that. So the thing that I'm just suggesting is that these boxcar numbers, and they're big numbers,
yes,
that we constantly are iterating to making sure that has the most impact.
Yes,
and you're doing that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
How?
Absolutely.
How?
We are doing that by, we measure the impact of the creative work that we do. We research the creative work that we do to make sure that it communicates what we need to communicate, that is compelling. We make sure that we are tracking the dollars that we spend and that we are getting the value that we spend for the dollars through a performance reports. We ensure that what we have agreed to spend is never actually increased unless there are extraordinary reasons, and we measure the delivery of what it is that we spend through the media group. So those are the ways. We also measure leads that are generated for startup and other business-related programs for the state, and we look to track those as well as website hits.
Okay. One of the things we may want to do in this book is either do it smaller to larger or larger to smaller. I mean, it just strikes me. I mean, this, we spent 10 minutes talking about a thing to some amusement park in Albany, and this is a big number, and I think we ought to prioritize the bigger numbers.
Okay, well, we're willing to spend as much time as anyone has questions for.
No, I understand that, but I mean, in the book, maybe we ought to start with the bigger to smaller, or smaller to bigger. Just maybe think about it.
Joyce?
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate your help. You understand where I was coming from.
Totally. Thanks.
I think also, well, first of all, what is the term of the extension here? Because it's not clear to me. How long is this being extended for?
The contract was already extended 1 year. It expires November 30th, 2015, and then we're going to put out an RFQ and an RFP to advertise for the next marketing firm.
Okay, so this
extension. This is just
$25 million is just to fund the program through November 2015?
Correct, it's because we're meeting our current cap at $211,500,000, and we already have $25 million from NIPA, so we're just requesting this $25 million amendment so that we could extend the cap $25 million more.
Okay, so, well, there are 2 points. One is in connection with Mr. Dyson's point, which is I think that especially when it comes to this kind of expenditure and this kind of contract, we need to see more detail regarding how the money has been spent and what we have gotten from it. And I think that that should be included in the materials that are given to the board, because we're really asking to approve $25 million here on basically, you know, on, I know I've seen the program, I've seen the commercials, etc., so I'm not questioning its existence, but just in terms of approving this kind of expenditure where the way in which the funds are being spent is not as explicit as it is in other kinds of things that we approve, where there's a definite project, certain you know, company that's benefiting, you know, where there are specifics that we can see and that are here. It's just $25 million for an ad campaign, and I think it would be helpful perhaps if we had more education on
Yeah, let us see what you guys are looking at to prove that it's working.
We are happy to share.
In digest form. I don't want to see that. Let's see the, you know.
I don't want
but not too digested.
And I just want to clarify one. The money that we are asking to add to the contract is the money that was approved by NIPA in the last fiscal year to be spent on this. And so we're amending the contract to increase for this current fiscal year. Obviously, when the legislature, if the legislative budget includes additional funding for this, we would be coming back and asking for that to be included into the contract as well. So I just wanted, as a point of clarification, to say that
Understand, I'm not quibbling about the money.
Yes.
I'm not quibbling about the money.
Yes.
All I want to make sure is that if we're kind of overseeing this thing, I want to make sure that we are really squeezing every scale cost that we can based on the scale.
Yes.
If it was a $5 million program, that would be one thing. Yeah. We're over $211 million, yes, on our way to $250 million, and I just want us to understand, or want to make sure that we are really squeezing every aspect of the cost of this thing to make sure that we're delivering on the money that we're spending. This is big. These are big numbers. Regardless of where they're from, they're big numbers. And when I see big numbers, I want to make sure that we're really squeezing the costs out of them. Okay.
Well, I think we would want to know things like how many hours of advertising we're getting for this, how many new, how much creativity effort is going into it, how many new commercials
there are different
there,
measurements
how
on it too.
Frequently.
Yeah.
There are different metrics that you use, I assume.
Absolutely. Happy.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I had one other question.
The ads are great, by the way.
At least here we see the product. I don't know if we're ever going to get to see the playground, but one question I did have is actually why the money is coming from NIPA.
That's where most of our open for business funding has come from since the inception.
Yeah, the Power Authority's done that.
Right.
Yeah, but is
part
there
of the state budget process?
Yeah.
But is there any reason why NIPA as opposed to, I don't know, I mean, why NIPA is really the question. I mean, what does this have to do with the Power Authority?
It was just determined in the budgetary process.
That's where it goes.
That's source of funds.
And it's
Probably
economic
that's
development.
Available funds, it's economic development.
That's why I'm wondering why it's not
Drive
coming
demand.
from our, maybe I should be happy it's not coming
Right,
from our
exactly.
funds. But
We are.
OPM.
I'm just curious, right?
OPM.
So,
I was just, you know, I have no objection to spending NIPA's money as long as they're willing to
Right.
spend it.
I just want to make sure we're doing it efficiently. Right.
okay. Any other questions or comments?
Would it be possible to get a report at this in time for the next meeting? So even though it's retrospective rather than prospective, we
Sure.
can feel
Absolutely.
comfortable with that.
You know, one couple of pages just to show
Very happy.
reach,
Yep.
you know, that kind of thing. Awareness, you know, whatever measurements you guys are looking at.
Yep.
Don't gin up anything, just
Don't make the stuff up.
Wow.
what's the data you guys are looking at to make sure it's working?
Totally right.
That's all.
And we will absolutely share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm still trying to figure out if it's good or bad that every day is Groundhog's Day.
Well, I know in the media business, when you're buying media, that you know every buy is a new buy, and it depends. It's going to change with the week and the season and the demand for other
Maybe.
purchases of time for that specific
Maybe there are lots
time,
of media
et cetera.
outlets.
Well, maybe one of your questions is then what kind of media outlets?
Lots of media outlets.
Where is it being done? Which?
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments from the directors? Any comments from the public on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Move it.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
We
Jonathan?
lost Anthony.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you.
Anthony?
Anthony, you with us?
I am.
He's motioning.
There you go, all right.
I muted it so I wouldn't have delayed voices.
No problem, thank you. Jonathan Byer will now present the corporation's property disposition guidelines for the director's consideration.
Thank you. I think this will be perhaps a more administrative item. The Public Authorities Accountability Act requires the adoption of guidelines regarding property disposition. The Act specifically requires that these guidelines be annually reviewed and approved by the corporation, which the corporation has done religiously since 2006. So we are now proposing the same guidelines without material change from last year for readoption by the corporation. Most significantly, the guidelines set forth obligations of the corporation regarding methods of disposition of its property. Generally, the guidelines require disposition of property to be at no less than fair market value as determined after advertising for bids. However, property can be transferred without soliciting bids or for less than fair market value if the transfer is to a government or other public entity, or the purpose of the transfer is within the purpose or mission of ESD. In addition, in those circumstances where we're seeking an exception, the board must make a written determination that there is no reasonable alternative to the transfer. Another requirement in the guidelines is that for most larger transactions, an explanatory statement of the transaction must be sent 90 days in advance of the disposal to the controller, the director of the budget, and the commissioner of general services, and the legislature. Accordingly, the directors are now being asked to adopt the guidelines attached to your materials, appoint the vice president, contracts of administration of ESD as the contracting officer, and to authorize the taking of related actions.
Any questions from the directors for Jonathan on this item? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Simon Wynn will now present an item relating to ESD's procurement guidelines. Simon, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Board. My presentation follows along from Jonathan's, just finished, but deals with the corporation's procurement guidelines as required to be approved annually by Section 2879 of the Public Authorities Law. The guidelines approved by the corporation will also be approved by all of the corporation's subsidiaries in due course. And those guidelines govern the procurement of goods and services by the corporation basically from any level above the minimum that is set forth in the state finance law. I'm happy to report that there have been no substantive legal changes to the procurement rules in the last year. So the guidelines are essentially similar to those adopted by the corporation at its March meeting last year. They've been amended only to improve their user friendliness and to centralize some procedures to make the process more straightforward. The only other issue that I would point out for the directors is that Article 17B of the executive law that adds a category of service-disabled veteran-owned businesses to the minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses will soon come into effect, and once the regulations for that Article 17B become final and binding, we will amend the procurement guidelines to adopt those. Other than that, that's pretty much all there is.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments for Simon from directors? Any comments from the public? A motion to approve?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
I don't think he was opposed.
No, he was,
But
I think-
but
right.
he's with us, but he's a little slow on it.
Right. Tom Conoscenti will present an item relating to the establishment of the pre-qualified real property tax consultants list. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you and good morning. The directors are being asked to approve the creation of a pre-qualified real property tax consultant list. From time to time, the real estate team at ESD has had a need to bring in outside assistance to analyze the taxes or potential for taxes resulting from a proposed development. This is particularly important for due diligence purposes when the corporation issues a request for proposal to sell or lease surplus state property. To meet this need, we issued an RFQ in November for real property tax consulting services. ESD received 4 responses. Staff reviewed and scored based on the evaluation, are recommending to the directors to add all 4 firms to the pre-qualified list. The 4 firms are BJH Advisors, Ernst & Young, Grant Thornton, and Empire State Appraisal Consultants. The list would be active for 3 years with the option to extend for 1 year. Thank you for your time, and I can answer any questions you have.
Great. Directors, any questions for Tom on this matter? Yep, Joyce.
Yeah, and you select the appropriate counsel from this list on a revolving basis, or how would it be?
So every time that we need to procure real tax consulting services, we'll have to send out to 3 of the firms on that list.
Any other questions or comments from the directors?
No, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get stuff done quicker.
Any comments from the public on this matter? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Robin Stout will present the next 2 items on today's agenda. Both items relate to the Bronx Psychiatric Center. I'll ask that you vote after each item is presented. Robin, begin with the contract for environmental legal services, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. As the chairman said, the next 2 items are related, and I will take them one at a time, but they both relate to the Bronx Psychiatric Facility. ESD is assisting the New York State Office of Mental Health in disposing of a portion of the Bronx Psychiatric Center. 33 acres of the current OMH Bronx campus will be sold for development, and OMH will consolidate its operations in the remaining 43 acres of the campus. ESD issued an RFP for this development opportunity, and just last month, ESD announced plans for the development of up to 1.9 million square feet of office, academic, and medical center space to be constructed by Simone Development Company. Simone owns and operates a successful development called the Hutchison Metro Center on 42 acres, which are immediately adjacent to the OMH site. The Hutchison Metro Center is a 2 million square foot facility that has attracted many healthcare companies. As part of the public review process, the proposed project will be subject to review pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. It is anticipated that such SECRA review may require the preparation of an environmental impact statement, which is a complex document which will analyze potential impacts of the project. In order to assist ESD in doing that environmental review, we will need to retain environmental legal counsel, which is this first item, and an environmental consultant to actually prepare the IES, which is the second item. In order to retain the environmental counsel, we had a pre-qualification list for legal counsel also. We solicited bids from 5 of those pre-qualified firms. 2 responded. After a review of those 2 responses, based on expertise and past experience with these firms, we chose the low bidder of the respondents, which is Side, Pageant and Rizal, a very well-known firm for environmental counsel. The term of the contract would be for 18 months, and the maximum amount of this contract would be for $400,000. As noted, though, the source of the funding is an already existing ESD internal account funded by Simone, the private developer. Thank you.
Great. Directors, any questions or comments for Robin? No. Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. So the second item then, following directly up on the retention of counsel, is the retention of the environmental consultant. We also have a pre-qualified list of environmental consultants. We solicited 4 of those firms, and 3 responded. After a review of qualifications, experience, and price, we are recommending that the board authorize a contract with AKRF Incorporated, which is a large environmental consulting firm that has much experience with producing EISs and certainly much experience with ESD. The term of this contract would be also for 18 months, and the compensation would be up to a maximum of $800,000, again funded by the private developer Simone. Thank you.
Great. Directors, any questions on this item for Robin? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Rachel Schatz will present the final action item on today's agenda. That item relates to a contract in connection with the Victoria Theater redevelopment project. Rachel, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. The directors are being requested to authorize the corporation to enter into a contract for consultant services to provide oversight as an owner's representative to ESD in monitoring compliance with historic preservation mitigation measures in connection with the Victoria Theater project. The project is the redevelopment of the former Lowe's Victoria Theater located at 237 West 125th Street in Harlem on the north side of West 125th Street, mid-block between Frederick Douglass Boulevard and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. The project will result in a new approximately 385,000 square foot mixed-use cultural, residential, hotel, and retail development with certain historic elements and features of the original theater preserved or restored. The project was determined by the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, or OPRHP, to result in an adverse impact. As is required under Section 1409 of the State Historic Preservation Act, ESD pursued consultation with OPRHP to explore appropriate mitigation measures. This process resulted in the execution of a letter of resolution, or LOR, among ESD, OPRHP, the Harlem Community Development Corporation, and the developer. The consultant will provide ongoing monitoring services throughout the construction of the project to ensure that the measures stipulated in the LOR are met. Due to prior experience working for ESD on the Henry Miller's Theater at the One Bryant Park project and historic theaters on the 42nd Street development project, the consultant, Channing Redford Architect, is uniquely familiar with ESD's required consultation process with OPRHP. This will ensure increased efficiency and eliminate any learning curve and consequential lost time, which is critical for the timing of the project schedule, as the closing is anticipated to take place next month. The contract will be for less than $200,000 with a New York State certified woman-owned business and therefore qualifies as a discretionary purchase under the governor's MWBE executive order, for which no contract reporter advertising is required. The term of the contract would be for 3 years with an option to extend for 1 year. Compensation will be in the amount of $197,180 inclusive of contingency, and contract costs will be paid from an impressed account funded by the designated developer.
Directors, any questions for Rachel on this item or comments? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. There are two information items on today's agenda. Lourdes Zapata will present the first item for the director's information. No vote is required here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lourdes Zapata, the Executive Director for the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development here at ESD. I've been asked to provide this report on behalf of Steve Cohen, who's not available today. In terms of the ESD MWB utilization for certified MWBEs, during the third quarter of the current fiscal year, ESD dispersed a total of $231.4 million in eligible procurements to vendors, grantees, and borrowers. Of the eligible procurements, $28.7 million in payments were reported to MWBEs. This number calculates to an overall utilization of MWB dollars of 12.8% for the third quarter, and our year-to-date utilization at 15.5%. However, it's important to note that the $231 million figure, which impacts our overall utilization, includes roughly $91.5 million, which were advanced disbursements tied to the Buffalo Billion projects. There's no utilization to report for advanced disbursements, which were made to a subsidiary of the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering, known as Fort Schuyler Management Corp. Those projects will be reporting utilization in the coming years. When the numbers are adjusted to deduct the advanced disbursements of the Buffalo Billion projects and their impact on utilization figures, our utilization then jumps to 20.5%. But given our current calculations, it seems that we're on trend to see year-end utilization, which will be slightly lower than the previous fiscal year, which ended up with ESD reporting utilization at approximately 20%. The Division of Contractor and Supplier Diversity is working on identifying, maximizing, and reporting utilization to try to get some improvement in these numbers for the fourth quarter and the overall year-to-date utilization. In terms of the initial commitments to MWBEs in the third quarter of the fiscal year, ESD and its subsidiaries executed a total of $48.36 million in procurements and amendments, of which $47.14 million were MWBE eligible. Of the eligible procurements, $2.25 million, or slightly over 4.7%, has been committed to MWBEs. And just as a reminder to the board, commitments only refer to the amount of contracts awarded initially to MWBEs and do not take into account future commitments and disbursements on those contracts. The utilization numbers, which I reported earlier, represent actual payments which are measured against the agency's annual goals. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Kay? I'm sorry, any questions for Lourdes? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Kay is going to present informational item on Global New York. Kay?
Thank you, Howard. My name is Kay Zarlin Wright, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Public Affairs and Strategic Initiatives for Empire State Development. One of the programs that I'm currently overseeing is the Global New York Initiative, which Governor Cuomo launched at the October 2014 Global New York Summit. During the summit, a $35 million Global New York Development Fund to provide loans and grants to New York State businesses was announced, as was a series of trade missions that can help create new jobs in our state and attract additional international business investment to New York. Earlier this month, ESD facilitated 5 New York companies participating in a Council of Great Lakes Governors trade mission to Mexico, and the governor will be leading a trade mission to Cuba next month. We are currently planning the upcoming mission, and in the coming months, I will update you with further details about the Global New York Division and seek board approval for the Global New York budget. In closing, I would like to say that the goal of Global New York is to capitalize on New York State's tremendous international appeal and growing potential. As the gateway to the United States, New York State is the #1 destination for overseas visitors and is home to the greatest number of Tier 1 research universities in the nation. New York State also has the 16th largest economy in the world, and it ranks second in the nation in academic research and development investment. We are well positioned and excited to be building on a strong foundation as we seek new avenues of expanding our global footprint. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for Kay? Yep. Joyce?
I appreciate the importance of trips to Mexico and Cuba in connection with this initiative. But are there any trips scheduled to countries or to regions that are more involved with high-tech research and the development of high-tech startups.
These are the two that are currently scheduled, but we're in the planning process for this division. So, and there's going to be more upcoming trade missions in the next couple of years. I don't have the details on where they're going to be or to who, but I'm going to note that. So do you feel that that should be a priority?
Well, I think that I understand the importance of these kinds of trips, but I was thinking also that perhaps they should be targeted in some fashion.
Do you think we should do them targeted by sector?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely bring that back to the planning committee. That's helpful. Thank you.
So that they complement each other.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? Thanks, Kay. Motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.